Edmond Public Schools responds to a controversy over a student displaying the American flag on his truck. This picture ended up on social media. An Edmond North High School student says that he was told he can no longer fly the flag on his vehicle.
Instead of making the kids be respectful towards the American flag, they took the easy way out and just said no more American flags. And the American flag is totally different than every other flag. You want to ban flags, ban every other flag, not the American flag. That is the only flag. For one thing, it's the flag that should unify us all. If you want to do crazy stuff and fly crazy flags, you should be thankful for the American flag, because that is the flag that allows you to fly all those other flags.
Some of you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Hey, have you heard of Kelly Lynn?
Kelly Lynn. Kelly. Who is she?
Welcome back to Who is Kelly Lynn? If you're wondering who is Kelly Lynn, well, that's this dude in front of you. And on today's show, we have a very special guest, Colonel Leonard B. Scott III, a Silver Star Ranger, veteran of Vietnam, had a very distinguished career. And here in the last few years, he's been taking what he's called a stand with the American flag. He stands on a very busy interstate here in Oklahoma and holds his flags out there, holding the American flag because he's a true patriot that loves that flag. And in this episode, he's going to discuss what that flag means to him. And also, Edmond, Oklahoma is in the news again for the school because there have been several students that were displaying their patriotism with the American flag on their vehicle. And they won't allow that to happen. There's even kids disciplined for passing out American flags. This is a big deal to our guest today. Should be a big deal to any patriotic, American-loving American out there. So today, Colonel Scott, he's a New York Times bestseller. He's an amazing patriot. Like I said, a Silver Star infantry ranger that's had a very distinguished career, and he's a patriot standing out here with our flag to show that patriotism. And here he talks about the Edmond School fiasco and his career altogether. It's a very enjoyable conversation. Might even bring a tear to your eye if you're a true patriot, just like me. It was hard to get through some of this. Appreciate you tuning in today. I hope you enjoy the show.
All right, let's do this thing.
All right. Colonel Leonard B. Scott III.
Yes, sir.
Nice to have you here.
Good to be here.
AKA Old Ranger, huh?
Yep. You know how that happened?
Yeah, I want to know. Tell
All
me
right.
that.
I was standing. I've been out about 7 weeks. I started to hold the flag and standing on corners. And when I was standing there, and that day I decided I'm going to hold. I always hold the American flag, the Oklahoma flag. I'm going to hold my old Thunderbird flag. I got a Thunderbird flag and held it. And I wasn't out there 10 minutes, and this lady drove by, pretty lady, pulled off the side of the road, dropped, and she was beautiful. And had these short skirt, walking through the weeds and the bugs and stuff were all moving around. And she said, "You've got the Thunderbird flag." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I did. My daddy was in the Thunderbirds." And I knew that I had it. And I knew then I got to do that flag. And she asked me, "I want to start a page for you. What do you? I said, "Ma'am, I'm just an old ranger." "That's it. You're going to be the old ranger." And that's how it started. And she didn't know how to do a page. She had to look it up and on a computer and figure out how to start a page.
How long ago was that?
That was it was 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
4 years
Old
ago,
Ranger,
brother.
you got a few followers on there.
Well, that lady, when she did that, she started the page, the old ranger page. She did that.
That's awesome. Well, you are an Army Ranger, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're actually an author as well.
Yes, sir.
How many books have you authored?
8. Well, I've 8 published books. I've got 6 that after the trouble started up, New York wouldn't take any more military books.
Really?
They gave it up. My editor, senior editor of all people. Now, I got to tell you a story about this now.
That's what we're here for.
I wrote the book on yellow paper because I didn't know. I sat there and started, and I enjoyed watching the stack grow. I enjoyed watching it. So I started getting into all the details, going back to after action reports and all that. And I got the book finished. I had to get it typed. Well, the general's office was up there, and the secretary never had anything to do. So I walked up one day and said, "Would you be interested?" Anything, just keep me busy. I gotta look like I'm busy. So she started typing the book up, and then she got more and more into it. She said, "You know what? It's pretty good. I'm not into this, but this is pretty darn good stuff." Her husband was in town, and what happened is the New York, when all the book fairs come to, New York has one that year, Washington has one. That year it was in Washington D.C. He grabbed that up, and he knew one of the editors from Valentine Books, and he handed it to him. And he said, "You might want to look at this." I got a call 3 days later, and it was from a lady named Pamela Strickler. And she said, "Are you Leonard Scott?" I said, "I am. We want to buy your book." I said, "What? How do you even know about the book?" "Oh, this gentleman sent it to me. He said it's really good. We want to buy it." I said, "Ma'am, I'm not sure. I mean, now who are you and who do you work for and all that?" "Oh, we're sending you a ticket. We're going to fly you up here and talk to us." And that's when I went to New York City, wore my greens, you know, and well, I was in Washington D.C., so I took the train. So I'm with my greens, and I brought my gym wear. I thought, I'm going to New York City. I'm going to change clothes and make my first run around Central Park. I'd never been there. So I brought my gear, went into that building. It's 50. It's Random House is who owns Valentine Books. Mm-hmm. So they brought me in there, and it's all women, but there's no men working that building. Only in the top floor. The men mix, but the ladies are all the editors and the designers and all that. And I walked in and said, "Now, why would you like my book?" She said, "Well, he said," and I kind of got into it, and it's very interesting about how you guys lived, because she didn't understand about how soldiers lived in Vietnam, what we went through. And I'll be damned if they gave me
like the Ritz, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it went on and
living high on the hog.
Well, it was going to be a paperback. They said, "Marlon, we're going to make this a trade size, so it's one step up, a bigger book." They went that big. They sent it out. It hit number one. Hit number one. First thing off the bat. So and then she brought me in and said, "We really thank you for your job." I said, "Ma'am, I started another book." "Oh, no. Don't worry about that. You guys, you military time, you've only got one book." He said, "Well, ma'am, here's half of one right now." And I handed it to her. She said, "What? You've already got it?" And I'm already started the third one too. She went, "What?" And so we started it. Cruddy Mike, The Last Run, The Hill, The Expendables, just kept going, brother. That's how it worked. And you talk about a hippie. She was from Berkeley, California. She was there. She's the one that helped raid the ROTC Center in Berkeley, California. She had boots on, long hip. She was a hippie from the day one, and I loved her to pieces. She was so good. She'd call me at night. She'd say, "Leonard, I don't understand this comment here. That's a hell of a note. What does that mean?" "Man, that's what we say. That's a hell of a note." "Well, you never heard that before." "Ma'am, don't change it. That's how we talk. Hell of a note." So she would call me about sentences. "Oh, that doesn't make sense." "Ma'am, it's how we talk." It was amazing.
That is quite the experience.
It was quite an experience.
And you did that while you were still on active duty?
Oh, yeah. I was, brother, I worked at the Pentagon. Of course, we worked late nights working on that grenade invasion. And after that, we would keep going. I had all night long. I would sit there all night long. So I could sit there and make notes, type up, because I learned how to type then. I used of course, it was the disc this big, and it worked out perfect, because by the time that was a chapter. One disc was a chapter. And
wow.
That's what kept me going. I know, okay, that's a chapter. Based on how many gigabytes or how I'd left, I knew that was a chapter. That's how I wrote it. Disc to disc to disc.
Well, all right. You were in the military. When did you get into the military? I don't even know how old you are. Tell me how old you are if you want to disclose that.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a story about that too. My daddy, we're from Minco, Oklahoma, small town. When the Depression hit, everybody was out of work. I mean, everybody in Minco, there was hardly any. It's like in Edmond, Oklahoma. I mean, it was bad. People didn't have things to eat. They built the armories. They built the armory in Minco. They built the one in Edmond. Guess who they hired to build it? All the people out of work, including the families, brother. The families would come up and cook the food for them. So they were paying for the families to cook the food, wash the clothes, and the guys to build the building. And when it was all over, the guys, it was $35 a drill. Man, they all joined the National Guard. So my dad joined the National Guard in 37, as most of the Minco boys did. When the war broke out, he always wanted to be a cowboy. I mean, a aviator, because um, all of his cowboy movie people, Ken Maynard was his favorite. Ken Maynard was a flyer aviator. My granddad took him to Wally Post Airport, and here he came in. Ken Maynard did on a white biplane, hopped out in a white jumpsuit and helmet. And my dad said, "I want to be like him." And so when the time came in 1941, 42, they needed aviators, and they came to the National Guard. My dad, I'll go. He did. And in 1945, my dad was in. He'd flown 50 combat missions, was shot down on his 50th mission, and landed near Munich, and they took him to the prison camp. Okay. 9 months later, prison commander comes and says, "Americans are coming over the hill. Keep gates closed." They were coming in. So the Germans left them all the troops were all waiting for them. Here they came over the hill. Here came the Americans. First Jeep through was from Minco, Oklahoma. My dad drove him, the executive officer. They drove through and they saw my dad there. And that exo stood up and said, "Leonard, where are your shoes?"
Ha.
Minco, Oklahoma unit. My dad saved my dad. So, brother,
That's pretty
God,
extraordinary.
that's God's work, brother. So I joined Oklahoma National Guard. My sister joined the Oklahoma National Guard. We owed the Oklahoma National Guard, that Thunderbird of life. We owed them that. So we were all Thunderbirds. And then what happened was they sent me to OCS. 18 years old, went to OCS, graduated from there, and went to infantry. I wanted to go infantry. I was an artillery guy. I was a 105 split tail howitzer, brother. Battling Betty
Well,
was
how
my
old were
gun.
you when you joined?
19. Oh, I joined when I was 16. See, the Oklahoma National Guard, you could join at 16, but you weren't allowed to go to any training. You stayed in the armory. You helped out in the armory. But you were in uniform. I was a PF, a private, first class. And I gained rank because the war started, and then everybody joined the National Guard, and my rank went from PF private, PFC to sergeant, and I was in charge of all the new recruits at 18 years old, brother.
Wow.
I was marching up and down the streets in Edmond or in Minco, and I marched them around. I had a girlfriend. I liked this gal, Bunny Davis. I marched them around Bunny Davis, and we'd sing Jodies, so that she would come out and go, "Oh, look at the man!" That's why. So that became
Girls like a
girls
man
like
in
this
uniform,
guy's
huh?
marching in uniform. So that's how I got in the Guard. Then I decided I went to OCS. I was the honor graduate. Went to Iowa BC. They sent you to be there, and I was the honor graduate. So they said, come on active duty." So I did. I joined and became a second lieutenant in the Oklahoma in the regular United States Army as a reservist. So that's how it all started. I was in Vietnam at 19, or I was 21 or 20 years old when I went to Vietnam.
What year was that?
1969.
1969.
Yes,
Well,
sir. I'd already been in for 5 years. So, man, when I got to my unit, it was sad. We had already lost all of our NCOs, see. In 1970, but we'd lost them all. We lost the 173rd, 1st Cav. All the senior NCOs were gone. And when I got to my unit, my little platoon, I was supposed to have 44 men, according to the infantry manual. When I got, and I trained at Fort Benning with 44 men, 4 platoons, 2 machine guns, 3 radios, all the normal things. When I had 22 men in my platoon. I had 1 machine gun and 1 radio. They were sending people home, but we still had a battle to fight. But I had to do it with, instead of 44 men could clear 300, 400 meters, we could only cover about 100 meters. That's what I got into. And NCOs, they were shaken bakes out of Fort Benning. They were E5s that were 19, 20 years old. They didn't know how to be NCOs. So I knew how to be an NCO, So I ended up being the first sergeant. I ended up being a platoon sergeant. I ended up being a squad leader, teaching my men how to survive because we were not prepared, brother. We'd gotten rid of all of our NCOs. Were either dead or they weren't there. They were all in the rear. You know what they were doing? Running the NCO clubs because the NCOs were taking care of the NCOs. Stay away from that battlefield because they're not supporting you. They kept the last of the NCOs were in the rear. I had E5s that were 19, 20, 21 years old. That was it. That was the way it was, brother, at the end.
Sounds like not the best situation to
No,
be
sir,
going
but it was,
through.
I had great guys, and the hardest thing you could, if you sent anybody back, as soon as they got off that bird, we had to gather around them, give it up, because they could get pot, booze, anything, they would bring it back. And you couldn't have any of those guys smoking pot out there. So we had to double check, make sure. If anybody was sent to the rear, if they come back out, man, it was
Shakedown
inspection
City.
shade. You better
Shakedown
believe
City.
it. Yeah.
Which is probably wise. I've been places where we probably should have shaken some a little bit harder down.
Well, you did not want to go to the rear. It was dangerous in the rear. It was so bad in the rear. See, officers were getting fragged. They call it fragged. If you were making people, the guy would get up and there'd be a hand grenade underneath their built in their bed or rolled underneath the deal. They were fragging guys left and right there. See, it was safer out in the field than it was in the rear.
Talking about our own guys to our
Oh,
own officers.
Oh, yes, sir. Because if an officer made, you see, remember all that days, remember the dapping and all that, and everybody was smoking and all that. That was the true story. That was what really was happening. And if you messed with their pot supply, you were targeted, brother. You're not allowed to do that. Oh yeah,
Man,
it was bad. People don't understand how bad it was at the end.
just wanting to
It's
get the
sad.
hell out of there and not want to be there. I can imagine there's a difference between when you say, yes, I want to do this and I want to serve, and then just yanking jokers off the street and saying, yeah, you're going to do this. You definitely deplete your quality of your soldier that you're going to have.
It,
People that don't want to be there never wanted to be there for the right reason.
well, the bad thing was is they used the Project 1000 then. Remember, we were getting so short on troops. They were taking people who wouldn't pass the test and going down 5 more points, 10 more points. So you were getting people that you barely speak English. I mean, they were not smart people, and that was including NCOs. So you had the Project 1000 people come in. You had another problem because they couldn't understand. They weren't good at it. It was hard, brother. It was hard to keep them organized and keep doing what they had to do. So my job was basic survival. Teach them the basics so we didn't kill each other. The worst thing that could happen is when you had a new guy came out, and we'd always have them tape up their frags because frag is the most dangerous thing you gave a soldier. And sure enough, the second day we got a guy, one of the guys, he's walking through the woods, pulled his pin. We heard the pop. Everybody ran away, and he was going, "What the?" And he blew up, killed him. Well, I went after my squad leader. You didn't teach him. You didn't check him out. You didn't do this. That was the problem. You didn't have an NCO corps. They were gone.
Hmm. I know as a guy that relied heavily on my NCOs,
Ooh.
and one of the things I did was pull them to the side and said, hey,
Mhm.
your one of your main jobs is keep me from looking stupid by making sure I know what we're doing, and because you're much better versed on this, and you've been doing this for longer than I have, and don't make me look dumb, because then that's the problem that we'll have.
Well,
Make sure, don't hang me out to dry. Make sure, like, hey, pull me aside. If I'm going to do something wrong, stop me.
can you imagine talking to a E5 who is 20 years old and telling him that? And all he's had is basic training, AIT, and NCO school.
So,
Can you imagine? He's only been in the Army for 9 months and he's an E5 and he's telling. No, that's the problem, brother. We lost the NCO Corps during Vietnam.
yeah, that would be a
That was
tough job.
the killer.
Uh, that's the truth, the backbone uh, of the Army.
And then I got back from Vietnam. I was assigned a young company commander. I mean, they needed a company. But I walked to Fort Benning. Everybody wanted me because I had a silver star. Man, if you had a silver star, they wanted you up front teaching all the young soldiers everything. They made me a company commander of the 44th Airborne Company, and that was a big deal. They wanted me up at the infantry school, but I got that job with the airborne guys, and that was a great opportunity. But now get this: within 4 months, we had race riots. at the United States Army Airborne School. We had to shut it down for a week. United States Airborne School shut down for a week because of race riots.
I don't know if I've ever heard that.
Oh, yes, sir. Remember, Volar was coming into volunteer army was coming in, and the black enlisted men enlisted did not want any part of staying in, but yet they were going to be brought into the regular army instead of being not enlisted, but for a certain time. They were going to bring him in for a little longer time. But it wasn't that. It was just they didn't like what was happening. They were just anti-white everything. The NCO club was burned down. The Lifter club burned down at Fort Benning, Georgia, at the Airborne School, brother. So we company commanders all had to sleep in the barracks. Well, I didn't go home for a month. I had to sleep in the barracks with the soldiers to make sure they didn't screw up. No, this was not a fun time, brother, to be in the army. I'm telling you. But I stayed.
I don't know how I've never heard of that.
Oh, no.
I feel kind of dumb if I have to
that's
look that
basic.
up.
All the courses, Fort Dix, all of them. We had a major. So you know what they did was, we had to have meetings. We had the guys came in about race relation people. We never had race relation people. Never heard of them before. Oh, they brought them in. So we had to have big meetings with all the staffs and all that, how to deal with the black issue against the white people, and it was major. Even basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, they had riots there. Oh, brother, it was a big deal.
Well,
That was in 70, 71, 72, or in that time frame. That was 72, 73, 74, right in there.
I don't know. Somehow maybe that got lost in all the other
No,
race riot stuff that we
No,
did
people don't.
learn.
They kept it all hidden. They kept it all down. They kept it down.
Well, tell me a little bit about the old Ranger. Tell me about your Ranger. When did you attend Ranger school?
When I got out of what happened was I went to my first day of active duty because I went as a National Guard guy. I went to IOVC. I was accepted to come on active duty. My first assignment was Ranger School. Now here I am driving into the Ranger School, and it was Christmas time, so I went a little early. I had a mustache, a beautiful mustache. I had a beautiful mustache. I wore a turtleneck, seersuck jacket. And I walked in the Ranger headquarters and knocked on the door, and the sergeant walked up and said, "Oh, you must be the British officer coming in. Just take a seat right over there. The commander want to talk to you coming in here," like that. I thought, okay, but I'm not British. So it was the first sergeant. And he said, "So you're going to be going to Ranger School, and it's going to be tough for you Brits. You haven't been here." I said, "Sir, I'm from Oklahoma." And he went, "You got a mustache? You got civilian clothes on? Boy, get your ass out of that chair." And so he said, "Was that your car?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Get all your shit, put it in a duffel bag, get on the ground. I'm going to put the duffel bag on your back, and you're going to crawl up to that building right there. And that's where you're going to stay until I come and get you." I went, "This is not Ranger School. This is not what I thought was going to happen. I'm not British. I'm not British." So because I got there early, they put me on detail. Well, during that Christmas time.
That's what you get.
But
That
when
was
I
your poor
reported
decision
When I
making.
reported the training, when we first started, the sergeant knew me. He knew who I was. His name was Cheeks. That's Sergeant Cheeks. He said, "Britt, get up here." So I had to go up, say, "Stop! Ranger Scott, reporting for duty. Outstanding." And he made me go back. So I was the British officer the whole time through Ranger School.
Good times, huh? Believe me, there were plenty of shenanigans and nonsense
Oh,
going
but
through
brother,
officer candidate school, but it makes it.
It makes the Army the Army. If you couldn't talk about, here's the perfect example. We had a kid. I later became an instructor there. Later on down the road, and we had this big Texas A&M guy. I mean, he was huge, and so we had to move these wall lockers around from one place to another. Sergeant Cheeks walked up and said, "Trevor, what's the maximum effective range of that wall locker?" "All right, we'll find out." He lifted that thing up and threw it as far as he could, paced it off, came back. "Sergeant, maximum effective range of an Army foot locker is 15 meters. Outstanding, soldier."
Good
That's the
God.
kind of guy it was. It was that kind of stuff.
We had all kinds of nonsense like that through my officer candidate school. I went to the Alabama Military Academy. It was the accelerated officer candidate
Mm-hmm.
school. They made it as tough as
Yeah.
they could imagine. They
Mm-hmm.
did what the federal program did in 12 to 14 weeks at that time, and they condensed it down to 8. Now, I
Oh
doubt
yeah.
it was a Ranger school, but there was plenty of that
Oh,
kind of nonsense where,
no
you know,
sleep. No sleep.
no sleep, just total, excuse me, comedy if you got on the right side, and if you're
Right.
on the wrong side.
Well, you was last. You were didn't last long.
Oh,
If you were the wrong
dude.
side.
But I got them to chuckle a few times. They didn't mess with me too much, and
Well,
I
you're a
kept
big guy.
I kept my bearing
Yeah.
while making them chuckle. And if I made them break, and I did it very tactfully, and they kind of left me alone pretty good. So, but they were like sharks in the water on some people.
Brother,
If they see you bleed at all, wah,
those
wah, wah.
those NCOs, they know. They know. They can tell how they walk, talk, and how they move. Man, they know who the good ones are and they get rid of the bad ones. Let me tell you,
They
that's
do. They're
their
pretty good
mission
at
in
it.
life.
They are pretty good at it
They're
most
really
of the
good.
time. Uh, I saw, unfortunately, when numbers were down, you see we got to have bodies, so they're
Yep.
like, okay, what wouldn't have passed before
Yep.
did pass, and I did see that, and it was
Yep.
unfortunately in the Arkansas National Guard, uh, they and it was nationwide they were needing officers,
Yep.
and I saw the progression of like where it was a higher standard, and then it was just like, all right, if they, oh, they'll work, let's get them through there.
What
So
amazed me is that the inability of the West Pointers. The West Pointers would come in. Soldiers didn't want them. They were just by the book guys and didn't understand how to work with soldiers at a lower level. See, they were all into Caesar attacking and catharsis and all these different places. They didn't understand basic down on the ground stuff. They were all out here. I'll never forget. We joined another platoon, and that guy was a West Pointer. A perfect example. We had a NVA or not an NVA, Kit Carson, which was a scout from Cambodia, but he knew all the area. He came back in and said, "50, 50, hit me here." And I'll never forget this. The West Point officer took out his map and said, "Approximately how far in meters is it to the designated location?" And the scout looked at me, and I looked at him. Hell, I didn't know what he said. That's how they acted. Nobody, they couldn't talk to soldiers. They didn't understand the basics.
knowledge, you have all the knowledge in the world, that does not equate to leadership
Oh,
ever, and that's the whole difference.
He didn't last long.
I've had some guys, and I've probably been guilty of it too. Like when I don't know the situation, but you surround yourself with those NCOs that know it.
Know
That
it.
doesn't mean that you can take the information and still make the best decision out of it, even though that they have. You might not be the expert on it, but you can be the expert on something and still not make a decision worth anything or show leadership. And I've seen that over and over too. That just because somebody knows something doesn't mean they could lead their way out of wet paper bag.
I've never seen anything as stupid as stuff that we did over there. I mean, they we stopped at a village once. We set up for a week because the BC were coming in and taking grain and stuff from 'em. So we knew that. So we set up kind of a perimeter. And we found out we didn't need to. Do you know that the number one security of a village, who's in charge of it? The old ladies. They would put them out with the ducks and the geese out from the villages. They'd come out about 200 yards and put a little hut up for them, and that's where the geese and stuff were at. That kept the geese out there. They were the first ones to let you know if somebody was coming in. That and the water buffalo had pens. They were always out because they could smell them coming in. And when the geese started going, you knew somebody was messing around outside your perimeter. We learned that. And of course, the dogs. We had to kill the dogs because we couldn't go into other villages without the dogs letting us know we were trying to go in there to see if they were there. So we ended up having to eliminate dogs, which kill me. But that we had to protect ourselves if we were patrolling. But the Vietnamese had figured out you put the geese and the water buffalo out, ain't nobody going in that village without everybody knowing about it. So
That's
it's amazing, brother.
a pretty natural
Yeah, that's what
defense
still
mechanism, huh?
today. Still today. You put a goose anywhere, and if it's home, he'll let you know. Guaranteed. He'll let you know when anybody's coming around.
That's pretty brilliant. especially with your limited resources. That
Yes,
is
sir.
probably a very effective tool that they came up with there.
They did. Those water buffalo, if you walked along a rice dike, and if GIs, were walking 10 feet apart with M16s, and out here in the field, here's a little girl with a little hat on a water buffalo, patting its nose, walking it through the rice paddies, making the holes, by the way, when it walks, that's behind them, the people putting the rice in the holes. And then, so here she is. When that water buffalo smelled Americans coming, it was like they knew we ate meat or something, because they would go shake, shook her off, put her in the water, and then it would attack you. It
Oh,
would come at you, would come out and back off, come out and back off. The worst thing you could do was kill it. The only thing you'd kill it with is an M60. We didn't, but another platoon did, and we told, don't ever kill a buffalo, because that is the buffalo for the whole village. There's only like 5 or 6. So that's the tractor. You kill that, you kill the village. So they've got to bring a buffalo out. They got to replace it if you kill it. So everybody knew, don't kill buffalo. If buffalo comes after you, pop a smoke or a gas grenade right there, and it'll stop. It'll go away. But we had to learn that lesson.
man, that's some interesting stuff. I didn't have to worry about water buffalo too much
Oh
where
man,
I was
those
at.
things were dangerous. They did not like. They could smell. They were like I said. They could smell us. I don't know something about we must have meat in our bodies or too much. I don't know what the heck it is, but man, they could pick us up.
Knew where you're coming from, huh?
They knew exactly where we were coming from.
So, how long did your military career span?
30 years
30 years.
from the time I was 16 until I got out in 1998.
1998.
Hmm.
And you exited as colonel, correct?
Yep. I don't know how the hell that happened. I think they did it because they had to have some National Guard guys from way back when make it to the Army War College. I think they had to have one just to say, see, we helped the National Guard.
Oh,
Cause see, I was a National Guard guy. That's my source of commission.
yeah, but you transitioned when you commissioned, then you transitioned to active duty, correct?
Yes. What happened after the
After
war?
they picked you up with the
Well,
IBLC or whatever.
well, the reason I got to be because it cut everybody. When the war was over, I mean, they decimated the army. They were cutting captains, lieutenants, everybody. They were getting rid of them, especially aviators. Those poor helicopter pilots, man, they got axed. The only reason that I was able to stay in because I had the Silver Star. That was
Really?
the only reason, brother. The only reason I got to make it to make it regular army.
Wow.
Yeah, and I served as platoon leader in combat. But that having that Silver Star means something. I had no idea it meant that much. So
But it worked in your favor, it
it did.
seems.
But didn't mean anything to me. But hell, I was blown up. I didn't know what the hell happened. All I know is I was sitting there, and the guys were, "Sir, you okay? Hell, I don't know what the hell I did. They had to tell me what the hell I did. I just did what I was supposed to do. So I thought, yep,
Well,
it's amazing. That's the way it goes, brother.
and Thunderbird, I'm a Thunderbird. I started off in the Arkansas National
Yep.
Guard, but came over here, and my brother was a Thunderbird, and I got
So
tons of pals that are
Thunderbird
Thunderbird.
heart, brother.
Absolutely. That Oklahoma way and that Thunderbird, they mean a lot to me. You should have seen the nonsense that we had in Afghanistan. It was a 30-foot tall, I think. I could be exaggerating, but I have pictures of it. It was 30-foot tall, I do believe. Thunderbird sign, like the
Oh,
Thunderbird
perfect.
patch.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so obnoxious. But when we got there, the 82nd Airborne had uh, a very obnoxious sign, and we're like, that's got to go. And we replaced it with this immaculate. It lit up at night. It was ridiculous.
It's
Uh,
amazing. My dad, he started Thunderbirds. He was 30-year man. High school graduate, made colonel, and only because he was a wounded warrior. He was shot down, remember, and he got distinguished. He had 4 distinguished service crosses, but he got to stay on to be a lieutenant colonel and command at different locations. He was so proud of that Thunderbird. He wore a red hat with Thunderbird patch on it everywhere he went.
that's
My
awesome.
dad did from everywhere he went. And the amazing thing was, no matter where we were, and we moved. I never attended a school for more than a year. We moved every year somewhere. And my dad was, and he was amazed that people would come up to him and say, "You're a Thunderbird." My dad was, or my uncle, It's amazing how many people knew that patch. Knew it. The guy that Mulligan, the guy that famous artist during the war, he has a gun shooting a jeep. He was the Thunderbird guy.
Really?
He was the Mullen or Muggins or something his name. Big time. He was the Thunderbird. So his cartoons went everywhere, and they always saw that patch, and that kind of helped everybody understand what the hell a Thunderbird was.
I will tell you, in Afghanistan, Oklahoma, the Thunderbirds were over there quite a bit. They were very familiar with the Thunderbirds. The
They should
locals
be.
were, and they were actually liked us, and they knew which ones that they had worked with that they didn't like, and they had some that they liked a little bit more. They were pretty good to us.
It's a great unit to think about. I'm sorry. Um, what made it so good, like I said, was they grew up in their armories together. It was the community. My half the football team of Minko, Oklahoma, were in the National Guard. One of the drills we got in the back of a deuce and a half, we had our equipment. We went to Maysville and played Maysville, got in a scrimmage, got back in, changed in our uniforms, and went back to the armory because the coach was the gunner on Bravo. So we played football against another team and had to change in a deuce and a half trucks, brother. That's how Thunderbirds were around. Because we had Minko, Anadarko, Chickasha, El Reno. Everybody had an armory. So see, we were all tied together.
I've met some amazing friends and have plenty of them that I still keep in contact with
Oh, brother.
from the Thunderbirds. Quite the experience that I had here in Oklahoma. I got to do quite a few cool things that were working at the officer candidate school was a good one. I love that.
Where was your officer candidate school when you did that?
At the RTI, it's off Kelly in
Okay,
Oklahoma
okay.
City.
See, we had where the museum is now. That was the OCS building. That's where I attended OCS. Was where the museum is now.
It was fun coming from going through it and then coming to the other side of it. It was like
No.
it was totally different. Eventually, uh, I got the opportunity to go all over and work with other National Guard units
Oh, that's
all over the
great.
country. It was a fantastic opportunity. I loved every minute of it. And we did it pretty good. There's some all right officers out there that fell underneath my instruction there, and most of them turned out pretty good. So I'm pretty proud of it.
Well, I was always see. I came back. My last assignment, I was the Oklahoma National Guard senior advisor, regular Army advisor. So they wanted me to come back here because I knew the 45th, right? So they assigned me from the War College. I came here and was a senior advisor to the Oklahoma National Guard. That was my job, and I loved it
Yeah,
because I knew all the guys. I knew most of the people out there.
it's some great folks. Which I'm not that old, but getting out and just being out a few years, there's plenty that I know, and I loved watching them. I watch through Facebook, and sometimes I'm able to go to their promotions. But some really good folks that I see their careers still progressing, and I'm rooting them on all the time. And some people that that staying in there and they're doing what they got to do, and they're making the rank, and I'm real proud of them.
Well, here in Edmond, Bravo Battery, 179 is in, I was serving the 179. I was a platoon leader in Bravo Company of 179 when I graduated from OCS for 2 months before I went to IOBC at Fort Benning. So I got to be, and guess what? Their armory is right there in Edmond, Oklahoma still, and Bravo Company's still there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's cool, brother. It is really cool.
Well, talking about Edmond, I mean, one of the reasons we brought you here is we're talking about controversy in Edmond with the Edmond Public Schools, and where you proudly wave the flags. Tell me about that. Where you stand out and wave the flags. What do you call that, and how often do you do that?
Well, I call them stands because when I stand out there, I stand with the flag. That's a stand because where I plant that flag, brother, that's sacred ground. When I hold that flag, see, I lost 22 men in Vietnam, and it was really hard. The hardest part was when you cover them with the poncho or put them in a body bag, is that last 10 inches to cover their face or put the part where you try to remember their faces. You can't. So those 22 men gave everything. And I told you about the situation with NCOs. It was bad out there. They endured without food sometimes. The birds didn't come in. We drank bad water. We took care of each other. And to lose one and to see people in this country that degrade our flag and they don't understand the sacrifice of those men, that's why I stand there, brother, to remind them that freedom is not free. That's why I stand there. Originally, I knew I had to do it. So I took my dad's flag. It was the coffin flag. I didn't realize those things are heavy. They got wool in them. I stood out there, the flag had hit the ground with a pole, so I had to get a bigger pole, still hit the ground. I said, this is not working. Then I go out there, and it would just hang there. So I got to change this. So it was a process to get the right flag to actually stand up and do it. So once I've got that done, it was just, once I stood there, most people didn't know what the hell I was doing at the beginning. They just drove by and drove by and drove by. Finally, a lady with her family stopped, two kids in the car, and she got up, walked out, and said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." She was crying. I said, "Why?" "My kids, they want to know, what are you doing? What's that old man out there?" And she said, "He's just an old man with a flag." And then she said, then I realized, no, he's not an old man with a flag. He's a patriot holding the flag. So I told my kids that, and I wanted to stop by and have you meet my kids because I told them a wrong story about you. And so that was the first time that anybody ever told me that I was a patriot. I hadn't thought about that. I was just standing there holding the flag for my men. And when she said that, it changed everything for me. It gave me another reason to keep standing. So every day I go out. I just went over 1,200 stands here not too long ago. I go out 5, 6 times a week for the last 4 years, brother, and I love it. I love it.
Um, it's pretty awesome driving by there and seeing you out there with the flags.
I I prefer to be alone out there because it's me and my guys. So when people come up, not that many come up, but when they do come up, I talk to them, brother. But you can't explain a lifetime and what happened. You don't want to talk to people about dead guys and why you're there and all that. So we get into conversations. But majority when they leave, they always thank me. I've never had anybody say, "You need to get a job or do something else, brother. You need to leave. You shouldn't be up here." Because I'm out there. I don't care what the weather is. I go out. I don't care. I'm a ranger, brother. I don't care if it's hot, if it's cold. I have a mission. That's what I do.
W- Well, this nonsense that kicked up in Edmond at the Edmond Public Schools
With the flags, yes, sir.
with the flags. If I get anything wrong, just let me know. Basically, started out with a kiddo having a flag on his truck, and did they expel him? What did they do
No,
to
what
him?
happened
What
was
exactly happened?
they put the flags on their trucks, and they said they had to take the flags off. Somebody walked out in the parking lot and said, "You need to take those flags down. You're not supposed to have them." But I don't think so. We're going to keep the flags. Well, that caused a problem, and everybody knows what the problem was. But it became even more of a problem because we thought it was just an individual making a stupid mistake. No, it was a policy. It was a school policy. No flags at school. Even shirts. You can't have a flag on a shirt. Anything. No flags. And I went, this is not right. This is not. When I first heard about it, I said, this can't be right. This can't. Then somebody said, somebody need to talk. That those boys came to my house. They came to my house, and I've thanked them for it. Because what happened was the guy across the street taught those boys how to drive. He's a driver's ed teacher. He knew them, and he go to church with them. He called them and said, the old ranger wants to meet you. And so they came over, and I gave them the flag. Well, I gave. Uh, uh, So I gave them all the pins and all that kind of stuff. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's when I got involved. This is not right. These kids, these were good kids. These weren't punks just doing stupid stuff. And son, brother had just joined the Navy. So for him to ship off the Navy, and he felt proud for him, and he needed to support him, that's why they did the flags, brother. And for them to say no to it, and then that thing on the internet where the guy took the flags from a kid, handed them out in the schoolrooms, small one, that guy, I'd like to meet that teacher.
I don't understand that at all.
Nobody
He was
does.
in trouble. He was passing out little flags at school in America. It blows my mind that the people offended by the American flag, it kills me, and they do these kind of things. But the nonsense from the school, we just went with you and joined you, and you had a flag rally before the Edmond Public School
Right.
Board meeting. And I'm telling you, we sat in that meeting, and they changed their story from what it was originally published in the media anyway, that it was that they had had fights and whatnot because of different flags, and they implemented this policy, which is not actually a policy, it's a I don't even know it. It's nothing laid out in writing
No, that makes sense.
anywhere. And there's no state law that we've found that has been broken by these boys having those flags on their truck.
Right.
Um, I think even you said, talk about it, or we talked about it yesterday, that all the time we have fire trucks with American flags, the flying semis, all kinds of vehicles flying with us all the time. And I could be wrong. If there might be a specific state law that I haven't found yet and dug into that could apply to it. I haven't. Nobody's mentioned it yet, so I haven't dug any further than what I Googled up real quick and didn't find anything.
Well, the reason it became such a big deal, this is the same school, Edmond North, same school that made national news. What, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, when they try to make money. Remember the day they put a teacher up on a wall and taped him to a wall? That was cool. And they had tanks, dunk tanks, and you threw a ball and the guy fell in the tank. No, you know what they did? They had girls suck the toes of boys and lick their armpits to make money. That was on national news. That same school. What does that tell you about the leadership of that school? That tells you everything about that school.
It does.
So all about their rules, they make the rules up as they go, brother. They're anti-American, they're anti-flag, they're anti-faith, and I think something's going on. They must hate women because they allow they have dress codes, and they say, "Oh, we're going to follow the rule on the flags, no flags." But they let the gals wear any damn thing they want to wear at school. Go to any Edmond public school and walk around. You're going to go, "My God, what the hell is going on here? This looks like a beach party thing here." Go to an Edmond school and just look at. And the guys, remember, we weren't allowed to wear wife beater shirts. Remember that back in the? We weren't allowed to wear that hair at arm. No, the guys are walking around that way too. No dress codes are being enforced in Edmond public schools. That, brother, you cannot have. I'm a guy. You're a guy. Guys do what guys do. We're interested in ladies, but they don't need to advertise, brother. Not in school.
I agree that it doesn't help further
No.
the education experience.
No, it does not help
I can
the education
attest to
system.
that. my
It's
record is
just
just
sad.
being a young man once upon a time.
Yeah, but
myself.
we all know.
Yeah, I mean,
Our hearts have
and
kinda
it
all
wasn't
shifted down.
it wasn't anything like it was now. We actually they did enforce dress codes, and it was still it still didn't help much with my attention span, even
Well,
with the stricter dress
see, I
code.
taught-
So I can't imagine what it is.
I taught at Central Middle School for 10 years. When I got out of the Army, I taught school, Central Middle School. We didn't have any problems, but then we started having problems, and it was easy. They went up, and the principal would hand them a pair of sweatpants. I said, "You're wearing this the rest of the day at school." And that kind of ended it, but all that ended. Now they can wear any damn thing they want.
One time I was with my daughters, and the oldest one was about 16 at the time, and she was wearing some shorts she shouldn't have been wearing. And I hiked up my shorts and tucked them in my underwear. and I was walking around, and I was like, I'm doing this. If you think it's appropriate for you to look like that, it's all right. So I embarrassed her enough to at least go change them for the day. What that she was around me. I didn't know what else to do.
But it's just a bad
Uh,
influence. You know, school is a place where you're supposed to learn to think for yourself, all that kind. This is not what's going on. This is a fashion show. School is a fashion show for the ladies. Because I taught there, remember? And then when I left there and these things started changing, I subbed, and I had to send girls up to the. I went, "Wait, you can't be in this classroom. You got to go up." They came back with nothing happened to them, so I had to quit doing that. That was the prop. Quit sending them up. We're not going to do anything.
hmm.
That when that started happening, I knew then something's going on here. Something's not right here. That's not helping the guys, and it's certainly not helping the gals.
Well, I'll tell you, in that school board meeting, we were there, and it was a different answer on the flags than what they had said. And they started talking about a football game, and everybody was showing their American pride, and they were wearing all this stuff. And then they just went into the stadium, and I guess just totally devastated the stadium with American flags just everywhere, strewn about, just that they could never imagine. It was the most ridiculous story that I can't believe that that lady told with a straight face.
I don't ask
I'm
her.
not saying that something might not have happened, but the way that she acted, like people just like littered the American flag left and right, and it was just strewn 30, 40 of them just everywhere across the field, and they're just like the most American flags that you've ever seen just thrown on the ground and left behind.
Have you
It
ever?
was insane, the
Look,
story she was telling, but she told it like it was serious and
oh,
that we were going to believe her.
when you go to a ball game in Edmond, kids aren't in the bleachers. They aren't in the bleachers. They're in groups and they move around to be seen. Just sit down there and watch them. They all gather, girls and the guy, and they start moving. And they move around and meet everybody, and then they reverse it. And that they don't watch the ball game, brother. They're out there checking everybody out. It is a show, and look how they're dressed at the football game. It
I
is showtime.
I think as we get older, all of us are gonna be like the young ones. Look how they're dressed. I don't know if it's getting any better, but
Yeah, I always wanted one of those muscle shirts. You know, I didn't have any damn muscle, so I always wanted. Oh, I can't. They were there. I can't wear a muscle shirt. So what the heck am I going to wear? We're bad brothers. We are. We were all into that back in our youth.
um, so now we don't know really how they're addressing this, or do you have more information on
No,
how they're going
You know
about
what,
this right now?
brother? What happens is when it goes to the principal and to the superintendent, it goes into a black box. You don't hear another word out of it. You won't hear anything out. It's the same way the city government. If you go up there and you have a complaint or a grievance, you won't hear a thing. They will not tell you, "Oh, we've checked into that." It's just gone. It's gone. That's what they do on purpose because people quit going up and talking to them because they don't do anything. What's the same? And they won't respond to you. So why should you even go up? That's exactly what's happening there.
Well, are these kids? Are they still?
They're
Uh,
getting. We just talked to one yesterday. He was there. His mother was there, and she was talking to us. They're getting back talk from teachers and other students. They're harassing them now.
are they still
They're
going with
harassing.
their flags?
No. They're harassing them because they did it. You've got the haters, including teachers now, are harassing those boys.
But
The mother was
so
upset.
they're not. The flags are not on the trucks anymore.
No,
And what did the school say if they returned with the flags? What was going to
it
happen?
would go right back to the road with it, take them away from them or remove them. They would not allow to have them in there. It's like meeting last night. No flags.
Yes, that was posted clearly on the doors, all over the doors.
Can you imagine having to post a no flag thing? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. They're making a thing out of this, of a flag in America. It's not a flag, it's the symbol of America. People, 7 red stripes on that flag, 6 white, 6 red, or 7 red. We considered that the red 7. If somebody died, he was considered, He's a member of the Red Seven. Because when that flag raises at ball games and stuff, and you put your hand on your heart, that's for the men who gave it all. Those Red Seven. And you know who said that? Betsy Ross. When she made the flag, she had the choice of what was on top. She chose red because her husband had been killed by the British. Her uncle had been killed by the British protecting his church because they made it into a stables. She chose red. It was the Patriots. So that's when that flag raises that red 7, it means everything because that shows the men and women who died for this country to make America what it is today. And if they don't understand that, then they don't know history, and they need to shame themselves when they bet. Oh, you can't hold a flag. You better believe you hold a flag. The men who died for that flag, they deserve it.
And where do you think that this goes from here?
I really don't. The way the city government and these woke DEI people are, they're going to double down. They will never, never change anything that we want. They will double down on stupid. Just look what's happening in the federal government. They double down. They will never admit a mistake. They'll never do it. They'll just keep doing stupid. Guaranteed, brother. That's just the way they are.
Do you have any steps that you're taking from here?
Yes, sir, we are. We have planned an operation called Operation. Connie, tell them what we're calling it. Huh? Operation Restore Freedom. And we're going to start, we want to do this. Make Edmond great again. Kind of somebody said that, I think about somebody else. Make Edmond great again. So we're going to be going to those meetings, and we're going to be pointing out to all the public that what they're doing is not the way it's supposed to be. Matter of fact, they are in defiance of our Constitution, our state constitution, and their own written laws and rules. Right now, they're in violation of their oaths. All of them are in violation of their oaths. So we want to point that out. If we could find a lawyer somewhere that maybe could help us, maybe get this in there, and they go, wait a minute, they're in violation of. Look at it right here. It says right here they said this, and that's in violation of that. Man, it would be great to get a lawyer to do that, but they're hard to find nowadays.
I don't know any good ones, so I mean, I think you're probably out of luck. I haven't met a good one yet.
Well, we keep looking. We're out there looking. Matter of fact, we'll put that in there. Is there any good lawyers out there?
Oh man.
Putting him on the spot here, guys. I'm so.
Well, Colonel, I don't want to take too much of your time today. I think we've covered a lot. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You've taught me some stuff I did not know, and I've enjoyed getting to know about your story. And I love the stand that you're taking for our flag. Keep standing up there. Over 1,200 stands. That's pretty amazing. Hopefully we have some video of you that we're going to cut in throughout this that will show some of your...
Well, I got to warn people, though. I'm getting old, brother. I'm getting old. I used to stand. Can't stand anymore. So I have a chair I sit in now. But it's getting hard. It's getting really hard. So there's going to come a day here pretty quick when I think what I'm going to do is, in my backyard, there's a gate that I can sit out there on my backyard, and Coltrane goes there. And I think it's going to end up being, I'm going to have to sit there and just sit there, and that'll be my stands. And it's coming pretty quick, brother. Coming pretty quick.
Well,
But I'll be there.
You'll be there. A
Yes, sir.
stand is a stand.
Yep. I'll be there.
Colonel,
how old are you? 76. 76. I'm the oldest Scot to ever live because none of us ever made it past 72. So I'm doing pretty damn good. 76. So I never thought I'd make it. I thought too many, jumping out of airplanes 500 times and doing the stuff that I've done in my life. I never thought. I thought I'd go out in a blaze of glory. I thought that chute wouldn't open and I'd go auger in, baby. And it seems like they said, tell my mama I did my best and bury me in the leaning rest.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate it. I think
Appreciate
that's
you,
a
brother.
great spot to end it. Thank you for your time, and
Yes, sir.
We'll get this to you when we get it out.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
I hear the choppers hovering. I hear the choppers hovering. They're hovering overhead. They're hovering overhead. They've come to get the wounded. They've come to get the wounded. They've come to get the dead.